So we are here, guys. Trump is in New York. That's a shot of the scene right there. And the arraignment's going to happen. The question is, has the left overplayed their hand? People who know me know that I'm quite famous for saying this. The left always overplays their hand. It doesn't matter the situation. It doesn't matter the position. It is this weird thing where they can't just simply do one thing. They have to do all the things, no matter what gets in their way. You couldn't say that Trump paying off Stormy Daniels shows what an immoral, unethical man the guy is. Well, it's hard to talk about immoral and unethical when you've got Hunter Biden to deal with, but still you could have said it. No, you have to take a misdemeanor and you have to turn it into a felony. You sound crazy because, well, you may very well be. It is clear and it is obvious to all rational people that you've lost your heads and you've lost your minds. Everybody agrees that trying to make this into a felony is such a radical reach. It doesn't make any sense at all. You look absolutely ridiculous in trying to make it happen, but that doesn't stop you. Quite obviously. Guys, welcome to the show presented by Americans for Prosperity, americansforprosperity.org, economic liberty, free speech. We're going to bring it all to you. Every last part of it, we are going to try and bring to you of this arraignment, what's going on and why it matters. Now, we're doing this in conjunction with the radio show. So, we got a lot happening, a lot moving, a lot going on right here, but we're going to get to everything. We know that Trump did arrive there in Lower Manhattan. We know that he's going to be in front of the judge at, I believe it's 2:15. And at that time, the indictment is going to get unsealed. Once that happens, it's going to be off to the races to reading this thing. And I'm going to explain why that matters in just about 30 seconds. So we'll get to it. Meanwhile, they're fighting in front of the courthouse. You've got the Trump supporters and you've got the Trump haters deciding that the smart thing to do is just, punch each other in the face a few times because that's rational. Of course, it's ridiculous. As a matter of fact, the people who support Trump, I totally understand why they're there. You understand why they're there. What in the world is with this indictment? Trump, now look, I'm going to say it in a way that that needs to be understood. And I already have people telling me that Stormy Daniels has a signed statement that this didn't happen. There was no sexual relationship between Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels. I'm telling you right now, I don't believe that at all. Here's what I think happened. I'll never lie to you. Trump banged a stripper. That's what happened. I don't know how to say it nicer. I don't even know what the polite way to say is this thing. Trump and his paramour were caught in flagrante delicto. Is that what it's called? In flagrante? It's one of those words. It's French. Usually that means surrender. In this case, it means, there was something sexual going down. And then he paid her to stay quiet. Now, you can argue that in a multitude of ways. As I said, you can say that that's unethical. You can say that that's indecent. You can say that that's immoral. That ain't criminal. That's not criminal. The argument here, of course, as we've been hearing about this indictment and the conversations regarding the grand jury, is that Trump made a payment to Stormy Daniels via Michael Cohen, one of the worst people out there, and that payment is a violation of New York State election laws. The argument being that because the payment was made, it was trying to influence the election by keeping her quiet. And doing so is the violation. The money that was paid was put into column A in the ledger when it should have been put into column B. That's what happened. It is a misplacement of where the payment went. I mean, that's the fundamental here. And Alvin Bragg, the district attorney, wants to turn that into a felony. Do you know how hard you have to reach for that? You got to reach deep, like silly deep, like ignorant deep, like stupid deep. In order to make that happen, in order to get that, you got to reach in a way that is, well, not actually possible. Jonathan Turley, George Washington University Law, William Jacobson, Cornell Law, a host of others who will engage and state that this is a misdemeanor on every level. And to try and make it a felony is such a stretch that it boggles the mind. It is such a mind scramble that there are many who are questioning whether or not the judge will accept it. This is why Trump's team, and he has bolstered the team in the last 24 hours, are going to look for a motion to dismiss. They are going to look at the judge and go, and I'm quoting here, come on. That's what they're going to say. And that is, so we're clear, a super strong argument, because this is very much a, come on, felony? Are you not? If the guy's last name wasn't Trump, would this be a felony? And the answer is, of course not. Of course it wouldn't be a felony if his last name was Trump. You'd have to be out of your head to believe such a thing. The only thing happening here is the last name Trump. So he's going to go for the motion to dismiss. Now, the plan is 215 arraignment, and then the motion to dismiss, and then Trump is going to head out the door, get on the plane, which they refer to as Trump Force One, which is, well played. Well, if I had my own plane, of course it would be Katz Force One. And the fact that I don't have my own plane is a sin against humanity. Very angry about it. And then he's going to head back to Mar-a-Lago, and then he's going to have a live event tonight where he is going to be addressing this. He is a prime time event. You better believe everybody is going to be covering this. Absolutely, positively, everyone is going to be covering this. The press is acting like, oh, it's the Trump show again. Oh, he wanted this. He wanted the perp walk. He wanted that. Of course he did. Why should he have to be silent? You're attacking him. And you're attacking him utilizing the judicial system and saying we don't actually care about the idea of the rule of law. We believe that Beria was correct. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Let's just get our guy. We couldn't get him with the first impeachment. We couldn't get him with the second impeachment. Maybe we'll go with this and we'll get lucky. Who the hell knows? It really is ugly. And it's why I've been stating that it's one thing to think that Trump's a bad dude. You're more than welcome to do so. But if you think this is okay, you're the bad dude. If you think that this is rational or reasonable or acceptable or valuable, you are the bad dude. You're the one who doesn't believe in the rule of law. You believe in the rule of personal attacks and the rule of man. You believe in the mob. You believe that somebody could have a fever dream. We have to get him. 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 He slipped away too many times. He is such a threat to democracy, a threat to humanity. He must be destroyed. And you're willing to throw out everything. You're willing to throw out legal precedent. You're willing to throw out humanity. You're willing to throw out the rule of law. You're the problem. At that moment, you are the problem. No, not you. They are the problem. And we're aware of this. We see this. And it's so strange that people will yell and scream at the Trump supporter. Oh, they'll believe absolutely anything. Dude, they're right in this case. The ardent Trump supporter is absolutely correct in this case. That your hatred of Donald Trump is meaningless. This is insane, and you're insane for doing it. You are out of your mind. That is 100% accurate. That is 1,000% accurate. So now let's talk about this indictment. Never mind the fights happening outside of the courthouse. The question is, what's in the indictment, and Trump is expected to speak from the courthouse hallway before the arraignment hearing. So understand, they didn't allow cameras in the courtroom. They said no to cameras in the courtroom. But they have a camera outside the courtroom, and there's nothing that can stop Donald Trump from speaking to that camera. Of course he's going to talk to the camera. I'm sorry, are we taking bets? Are we taking bets? Where? What do we got? Hold on a second. I got cash. What do we put? We just doing $1, or are we doing the Mitt Romney 10,000? Whatever it is you want to do, I'm totally in. Of course he's going to talk to the camera. Of course he's going to say it's a miscarriage of justice. Of course he's going to thank his supporters. Of course he's going to talk about the people attacking him. Of course he is. Of course he is. This indictment, according to sources, has 34 charges. And it's important to note that that number is an insignificant number right now. The number 34 could refer to the fact that what Alvin Bragg, the district attorney of Manhattan, did was take the same charge, right? This improper moving of money. And let's say there were 34 ledger entries. He can create 34 charges out of that because it was the same mistake 34 times. He could decide to add some things in there about a woman by the name of Karen McDougal, who was another woman who was paid for her silence. That's also possible that it's in there. Is it possible that there's something in there that is just, oh my gosh, nobody saw this coming? I could see some people trying to spin it. I can't actually see it. Based on how much of this we know, certainly when it comes to a grand jury, you don't know everything. And I don't mind that we don't know everything about what the grand jury does. I like it when the grand jury process is secret. Do you remember it was just about a month ago in Georgia, they had the grand jury, and you had the foreperson, this woman who was this child. She was a child. And saying, I really wanted to subpoena Trump so I could, because I was a foreperson, and I could be like the one who swears him in, and be like, do you solemnly swear? And he'd be like, I totally solemnly swear. And then we'd be like, that'd be so awesome. Like, that's how she talked. It was crazy. But what people noted was you don't talk like this. You don't say what happens with a grand jury. This is not the way you act. This is not the way to go about it. So the secrecy of the grand jury is something that I favor. And the little bit we know, it doesn't seem to be anything else but these charges. So they're going to talk about their 34 charges. And that's what we want to see, what they are, and are there any surprises in them. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think we're going to see many surprises in this. I think it's going to be what it is we already know. The same thing over and over again. Now, if Trump comes out, we're going to carry it. We're going to share every bit of it, every bit of that we can. I'm going to be happy to do it. So keep it here. Trump is being arraigned. He is at the court. This is going down, people. It's going down. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. Now, as radio goes to commercial, we'll take the quick break. I'm going to start taking a look to see if there's any place else things are happening. This is Newsmax's coverage right here. Let's hear what they have to say.
Liar. Well, then now you got it. And then you file a motion to disqualify him. In this case, he then denies it. You get convicted. You go to the Court of Appeals and say, how could he have been fair? He already said previously that Trump was a liar, and we asked him to take himself off the case, and he refused. Okay, folks, we're looking 17 minutes after 2 o'clock here, East Coast time. And to put this in historical perspective, all the talk and everything that led up to this, literally for years, on the right and the left, we have a former president of the United States in court today, and he is being arraigned and will have to make a plea as to the charges being presented to him. And I wanted to ask you, Greta, obviously this moment, it is somber and serious to begin with. I'm kind of curious what it feels like when you are with your clients in that courtroom making that plea and I'm sure you've been involved with some people that are very successful and have a lot of money. What is the feeling they are going through? I always felt like the charges were directed at me. I felt that awesome responsibility, and I was standing in the shoes of my client. You feel an enormous responsibility for your client because you expect that you're supposed to work magic. Your client's there because somehow you let your client get there. You weren't able to head it off at the pass or negotiations or whatever. So it's an awesome responsibility. Now look, though, I must say with Trump, though, being very practical and realistic, whoever's standing next to him in court today, whether it's Joe Tacopina, who's standing closest to him right now, it's not a guarantee that that's going to be the lawyer standing next to Trump come trial. Should he go to trial, it's not dismissed because Trump can easily dismiss his lawyers. So, I assume if it's Joe Tacopino, he's a serious criminal defense lawyer, that he's standing there believing that he's going to be the trial lawyer to the end, and he assumes it's an awesome responsibility. And frankly, he doesn't like the prosecutor right now. I can tell you that much. As we defense lawyers, when we were in the courtroom and the prosecutors are saying awful things about our clients, we certainly didn't like the prosecutor, never thought they were fair. And of course, we're suspicious of the judge as well. But all in all is that I'm not so sure that in the end, that Joe Tacopina will be the lead trial, at least the lead trial lawyer. But it's a huge responsibility for the lawyer. And look, you're not just representing the client. You're also talking about constitutional rights. And if you can go after this man for this, there's someone who's the next guy they're going to go after. If you think this is a political crime, do you think that this is selective prosecution? If you think this is dead wrong, your responsibility really is enhanced because if we don't stop now, if you don't make a point of this now, it's going to happen again to the next guy.
That is Greta being absolutely correct about the abuse here. And Greta Van Susteren being absolutely correct about the violations here. Tony Katz, good to be with you. Don't forget to subscribe on Rumble, rumble.com/Tony Katz. I think you can now do rumble.com/live/Tony Katz, or they've got a whole new system. But if you go to Rumble, subscribe, would greatly appreciate it. We are doing more and more of the streaming, more and more videos, more and more conversations. I am looking for the indictment. It's supposed to be unsealed as of now. I want to see what's going on. I want to read this thing. I want to see how completely off base and insane this all is. Meanwhile, we don't have it yet. We haven't heard from President Trump yet. That is supposed to be coming. You got the hallway there. And in that hallway is where Donald Trump is expected to speak. The hallway in front of the courtroom. No cameras in the courtroom, but cameras outside the courtroom. And nothing stops Trump from, going in front of those cameras. Tony Katz, guys, good to be with you. 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669. Also, you can comment on Twitter at Tony Katz. You can always do that. And I'll be happy to talk to you about it. There were a couple of things that I've been sharing that I thought were just, truly stunning when it comes to how people have responded to Trump being indicted, and really this almost over like believing that they're the good and decent people. If you favor this indictment, if you favor this attack, I don't know what makes you think you're good and decent. It is peculiar, and there was this from MSNBC.
Putting it this morning, it is the day of the Don. A former president of the United States, Donald Trump, is going to stand before a judge and hear charges against him.
He's not going to get the cuffs. It's been reported he's not getting cuffs. He's getting the kid glove treatment of what this would be. He's getting to go at his appointed time. He's going early before the hearing. He could have done this over Zoom. But that wouldn't be as good of a show. So he really is recreating the Trump show with this arrest, with turning himself in. It's just a repeat of the reality show, and it's a story. And I actually, I'm torn on how to cover this because it is news. It is huge news. It's all that people want to talk about. People don't want to talk about the tornadoes that are ravaging one half of the country. They want to talk about the ex-president having to go for his day in court.
Yeah, and
I love the fact that Elise Jordan there is breathless. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to cover this. They are so happy. They are so overjoyed that they get to cover this. Finally, Trump is back and we're going to get ratings again. And this whole idea, oh, he's getting the kid glove treatment. Do you believe that? He won't even be in cuffs. They don't want to have to cover it, but they are literally salivating over the idea of a handcuffed, perp-walked Donald Trump. That is, man, that is a weird flex. That's nuts. It shows how absolutely committed they are to the nonsense. And it is a commitment to the nonsense. They want this. They love this. They are overjoyed about this. And when they claim, my gosh, I can't believe we have to cover him again. But, Trump could have done this by Zoom, but no, he wanted the show. Listen carefully. Trump's job in this is not to do it the way you want it done. You want him to lay down and take it. You want him to plead guilty. You want him to take the hit. And at the same time, you want the show. So do you not think that we see you? Of course, Trump should go out there and engage. Trump shouldn't pay attention to any gag order, by the way, that comes his way. He's the defendant. He's allowed to say what he wants. Let them prove their case. They may have to be gag ordered. They may not be able to do X, Y, and Z, but he's the defendant. I don't care if he calls Alvin Bragg a punk, this, that, and whatever. I don't care if he makes fun of his memo. It doesn't matter to me. It's inconsequential stuff. And it's inconsequential because Trump is allowed to say, I'm innocent, come at me. If he thinks that's smart for his defense, now it could be smart to say nothing. Sometimes you say ungats. You don't talk. You don't share. You don't do it. You stay quiet. That's the right thing to do. That's the smart thing to do. You stay quiet. You don't make yourself the story, and you let the lawyers do their job. It's Trump. What do you think's going to happen? That's right. That's what I thought. But this, we don't know if we want to cover the thing. Guys, all they want to do is cover the thing. All they want to do is cover this story. They're so incredibly excited. I have been discussing that there's something remarkably ugly in all of this, because what should be discussed is the abuse of power here. And I only hope that Republicans are ready to deal with that once this case is either A, thrown out of court, or B, Bragg fails and the Manhattan DA's office fails in their charges, and you get a not guilty verdict. Based on the information we have, without having the actual indictment in front of us, which we're still waiting on, I'm still waiting to see it. Based on what we know, there's no there. As I've been discussing, just if you follow lawyers like Jonathan Turley, George Washington University, and that pushing this to a felony is just beyond a stretch. Beyond a stretch. What's going to happen with Alvin Bragg? And what charges are going to be brought on Alvin Bragg? And when this is won by Trump, let's say it is. Everything's possible. Once you go to court, you never know how it's going to play out. Once this happens and Bragg loses, who's going to push to disbar him? You think that's a weird thought? I think that's the most rational thought that there is. The judge, by the way, saying in the case thus far, because we don't have cameras in the courtroom, the indictment is of monumental significance. Well, if you want to talk about it being a first for a former president, Well, yeah, I'm not going to tell you no. I'll agree with that. I'll believe that wholeheartedly. I'll be down with you on that. What about Bragg? What about this district attorney? Trump is coming out right now. Is Trump going to make his way?
Being fingerprinted. And
he just walks out and then walks into another room right there. Did Donald Trump? We thought he might come to the camera and make a statement. That has not happened as of yet. We'll see if he does. If he does, I swear to you guys, I'm going to bring you every bit of it as I can. What's going to happen with Alvin Bragg? What are Republicans ready to do? Are they prepared to say, look what you just did. Look what you just put the country through. Why are you still a lawyer? Now, you'd have to go about proving that he was abusing his power, but I don't even think that's tough. And if Alvin Bragg can do this, do you really have to prove anything? Now you're saying to me, Tony, it's very tit for tat. Huh. Is that right? Let's talk about how one has to respond. We'll do that coming up. This is Tony Katz today. Now, this concept of response, people will see as vengeance. They'll see it as a vengeance conversation, and I'm not a vengeance dude. I am somebody who believes that you have to fight. And if there's one thing Republicans are just absolutely positively horrible about, it's about fighting. I do not know why the Republicans are such remarkable cowards when it comes to fighting. But it is obvious and clear to anybody who's paying attention that one of the things that you have to do is fight the way they do. We talk about this with elections. When it comes to elections, they're doing ballot harvesting. And when it comes to elections, they're doing ballot curing. When it comes to elections, they're doing mail-in voting. I oppose these things. Of course I do. I'm a rational person. I think these are terrible things. But if Democrats are doing them, Republicans have to do them because you have to compete in a way that actually has you competitive. I've got some people who leave me messages. 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669. That's my phone number. And what they do is, Tony, you keep talking about winning elections. Don't you know the elections are stolen? You can't win again. Dude, you have to fight like they do. You then win. You then change the rules to make them normal. Well, they steal all the elections. You have to work harder. Because if the argument is they steal all of the elections, well, then you're telling me you've got nothing. You tell me you're not willing to do anything. The stealing of elections has to do with the systems that are set up and how they work them, and the political right doesn't work them. So first, you have to work them like they do. You have to work them like they do. Secondly, and it is extremely important, you have to fight like they fight. Now, if you are anything like me, what you want to do is smoke a cigar, have a bourbon, eat a steak, relax. That's what you want to do. You want to be left alone. I get it. I hear you. I want to be left alone. That's what I want. It's what I dream about. I want to be left alone. These people won't leave me alone. All I want is to be left. A bourbon over here. I got the steak over here. The cigar is over here, probably in the Maduro, but depending on what the bourbon is, that's neither here nor there. These people, they tell me that everything about what I'm doing, well, the smoking, of course, is an attack because it's secondhand smoke, and the steak, of course, is an attack on the environment, and you're leading us to an early death. And the bourbon, well, they usually don't say too much about the bourbon, but the bourbon something is terrible about, and therefore you shouldn't be able to have any of it. The bourbon is too close to a gas stove, and we have to get rid of gas stoves. Whatever it is they say. They don't ever stop bothering you. It's Michael Walsh, who is a screenwriter. He wrote The Fiery Angel. He wrote The Devil's Pleasure Palace. He is the editor of the book, The Great Reset. against the Great Reset, which is a fascinating collection of essays. And I'm going to paraphrase him, and I'm going to get it wrong. It's going to they never rest, they never sleep, they never quit. The political left never rests, never sleeps, never quits. Never, ever, 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 ever. What we have to do is never rest, never sleep, and never quit. We got to push back in all the ways that they push. You got to push back the way that they are pushing. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. TonyKatz.locals.com, by the way. That's where you find everything that I'm doing. TonyKatz.locals.com. You should check that out right away. Check it out immediately, if not sooner, in rumble.com/Tony Katz. That would also work for you. We got the brief glimpse of Trump. Got him there as he was exiting the courthouse, and there was a question of whether or not he was going to make a commentary or make a statement. Make a statement as he was leaving. That hasn't happened yet. Meanwhile, outside the courthouse, you've got people who support Trump and people who want to viciously destroy Trump, and they would literally like to burn him in the streets. I understand why the supporters are there. Why are the other people there? You got the indictment. He's been fingerprinted. He's been booked. He's going to stand trial. Why are you there? Is anybody going to ask the question, why in the world are these people there? And the answer is, well, why do any of these people show up anywhere? Do you remember, it was just a few days ago, they were going to have the Trans Day of Vengeance, a very violent thought process, a day of vengeance. And they were going to have it on April 1st in front of the Supreme Court, and then they decided to cancel it for their safety. They're going to have a day of vengeance, but they were worried about their safety, so they canceled it. That's pretty damn funny. You know that the people who are putting stuff like that together are the Antifa types. These are the people who just want to burn it all down. These are the people who scream, punch a Nazi. Who's a Nazi? Well, anybody we say is a Nazi. We don't even know what a Nazi is. We can't spell Nazi. You know they spell it with a TS. You know they do. Don't you lie to me. Don't you lie to yourself. They just want to punch people. They just want to hurt people. They just want to do damage. This is who they are. This is what they do. This is what they're all about. All they want to do is attack, destroy, attack, destroy, attack, destroy, attack, destroy. They are, you would argue that they're anarchists by nature. The problem is that they couldn't handle 4 seconds of anarchy. Actual anarchy? In actual anarchy, these Antifa people would be in the fetal position in a puddle of their own making, begging you to stop and screaming for their mother. No, what they do is they take advantage of the social contract. You often see this, I'm going to get yelled at for this, but it's fine. You ever see those videos where there is a woman screaming at some guy? That's a sporting event. It's whatever. She's screaming at him. She's yelling at him. And he's like, I don't want any part of this. Just come on, let's stop this. And then she'll start hitting him. And all he does is take the hits. That's because men have been told from the earliest parts of their existence, you don't hit a woman. You don't hit a woman. You absolutely positively don't hit a woman. The woman knows this and utilizes that as a reason to continue to go at him. We see this in the social contract about the people who block the roadways. They block the roadways because they're protesting. I don't know what they're protesting, something environmental or something, whatever justice thing they've decided is somehow a problem today, and they have to go about fighting it. They block the roadways because within the social contract, they don't care that they block the traffic. They know you're not going to run them over. And when you nudge them out of the way with your car, they're shocked. They are shocked. They are stunned. They can't believe it. How dare you try and run us over? In my beloved Indianapolis, when the Antifa Black Lives Matter people were doing this, there is video of them trying to stop cars going down a street, and they pulled weapons. They pulled weapons. And when the car backed up and went to try to go around them the other way, they ran to stop the car again. Weapons pulled. When I posted the video, I made no commentary to it. I made no editing to it. I said, this happened. Here's the video. Here's the marker in the video where you can find it. I then got labeled suspected white supremacist. I checked with my rabbi. It turns out I'm good, but that's not the story. They wanted the fight. You were wrong for backing up and trying to drive around them. You would be wrong if you pushed them out of the way. They are stunned and they're shocked. How dare you do this? You block traffic in the middle of the road. You deserve to get run over. What is the argument here? You're special? You're important? You're people who want to utilize the social contract to break us down and attack us. Why would anybody show up at this arraignment of Trump? It's happening right now. Trump is being arraigned. He has been booked. He's been fingerprinted. There's going to be a motion to dismiss put forth by his lawyers. That's going to happen. And then he's going to head back to Mar-a-Lago where he's going to give a primetime speech. And you know that speech is going to be a doozy. By the way, has anybody counted how much money the man has raised from this? When I started, I talked about the fact that the political left always overplays their hand. They overplay their hand every time and in every way. They overplay. It's who they are. It's what they do. They thought that indicting Trump would stop his support. His support has doubled in terms of the voices. There are people like myself, and I admit this very, very clearly. I talk about the fact that in 2016, when we talked about Trump, what I said was, and I discussed this on air, I actually wrote this letter. It was an open letter to my kids. I rarely talk about my family on air. It was the first time I ever acknowledged having kids, I think in print. And I said to my kids, here's my options. I've got Hillary and I've got Trump. I have 0% chance, a 0% chance of getting what I want with Hillary Clinton. It's impossible. It cannot be done. I cannot get what I want with Hillary Clinton. Trump, it's 50-50. It's a jump ball. Because I knew Trump wasn't a conservative, but I knew Trump wasn't Hillary. So I was like, you know what? I'm going with the odds like a rational person would. I'm going with Trump. And policy-wise, I did pretty dang well. I did pretty dang well with Trump. I was very, very pleased policy-wise. And I would much rather have had Trump than Joe Biden. My gosh, I'm not insane. When I look at 2024, I do not say, well, I got to have Trump back. I say, okay, what are my options? And what is the path to victory? So I'm one of the people who isn't like Trump ride or die. I'll take a look at all my options and I'll see who will get me the best chances to a general election victory. The one argument that I don't think Trump supporters are making enough, that I think is a really, really good one. If you take a look at the totality of votes around the states, there were very slim margins that Biden won by. Whatever you think about the election, just go with me on the conversation. Very slim, very, very slim stuff. And you realize that didn't take much to get Trump a victory. It would not have taken much in these states based on the Electoral College. It just would not have. So that's an argument for Trump going forward. That's an argument for Trump to take into 2024. Other people believe the times are different. The baggage is different. Go another direction. Leave that where it is. Leave that where it is for a moment. Even those people, which I could be in that group, recognize what's happening to Trump is criminally insane. And that's why he's raising millions of dollars. And that's why people who don't even want to be near this conversation are like, well, yeah, this is crazy. This is obscene. This is disgusting. This is despicable. You can't have any part of this. You can't want this. And they're being supportive of Trump. And that's why he is raising millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. The left overplayed their hand. And part of the problem is that the left doesn't understand the subject. This was George Conway, whose claim to fame is that he slept with Kellyanne Conway. There's no other reason that anybody would care what George Conway has to say about anything. Listen to this.
One of the things about this that's really quite remarkable is how the Republican Party has put itself in the position of defending a man who paid $130,000 in hush money to a porn star in the waning days of a presidential election, and did that, without compunction, did that. I mean, it would have been it was a scandal in and of itself, and yet they're completely inured to it. And the reason is because once you start admitting that Donald Trump does something that's wrong, or does lies and does little things that are wrong, or slightly bigger things that are wrong, you have to open up to everything that he did, that he lied about, and that you lied for him about if you're a Republican, pretended that didn't exist. And that is the problem for the Republican electorate. I mean, people talk about, we always hear discussion here about how, the Republican Party, when is it going to come to its senses? Well, the problem here is you have millions of Americans who allowed themselves to be taken in by this man. And
you see the problem? George Conway starts from the basis that he is the moral center. That's not the way it is. People will accept the fact that somebody's imperfect, and I would argue that Trump's imperfect, but were their lives better with him in office? And the answer is yes. Joe Biden is without question imperfect. Joe Biden is a questionable character at best. And by the way, while we're indicting people, where the hell is the Hunter indictment for lying on Form 4473 when he was able to purchase a firearm? He lied on a federal form claiming he didn't do any drugs and he bought a firearm. We know this for fact. This is nothing in the ether. This isn't a stretch like you're seeing from the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Why isn't he indicted? It's a rational question asked by rational people, and rational people recognize, I don't like this about Trump, or I don't like that about Trump. But what Alvin Bragg is doing and the Democrats are doing is criminally insane. George Conway can't see it, because George Conway is not an intellectual. And I would argue that even the concept of the intellectual has lost all meaning, and sadly so. But what matters is that you're able to really separate out the two things, and people like George Conway and the progressive left can't do this. There's this guy, and then there's what's happening to this guy. I can argue that it's wrong to have hired a prostitute, if you want to argue that that's wrong. Admittedly, I'm one of the people who would be fine with legalized prostitution. Two people engaging in contract of their own free will, why the hell am I getting involved? But that doesn't make what Alvin Bragg is doing, what the political left is doing, that's insane. And therefore, I would support Trump over what it is they're doing. He can't see it. He cannot see it. And he sits there on MSNBC speaking to Joe Scarborough, who is, that show used to matter? Morning Joe used to be such an important show. Oh my gosh, it used to matter so much. And now it's just this clown show of Joe and Mika and screaming and craziness. And what the hell are we looking at here? That show used to be the intellectual morning show. Fox and Friends, it was a little more red meat and a little more happy-go-lucky. And then Morning Joe was supposed to be the intellectual rigor. It's all gone away. Gone. When you're having guys like George Conway on who engage this kind of commentary and it's so obvious that he doesn't understand you, me, and we, and you and I are different. You and I can have very different views on Trump, but we understand this baseline that we are talking about, A, what is in our best interest, and B, what is in the nation's best interest, and C, the difference between right and wrong. He believes his emotions should govern the differences between right and wrong. We think the law should engage the differences between right and wrong. That's how we see it. If we take January 6th as an example, just as a theory, I can admit clearly that it was a riot. I can say without question it was not an insurrection. If you scream that January 6th was worse than 9/11, you're crazy. You are a deluded soul. You're lost. You are deserving of the derision that you get. But look at how many people in the Eric Swalwell camp, when he's not farting on TV, who go about saying that. And how absolutely crazy they are. And then they have absolute hate and derision for us for actually being able to say, wait a second, this, not that. Bad. Riots are bad. If we argue that Minneapolis riots are bad, if we argue that Portland riots are bad, a riot is bad. Now, some people argue, well, wait, what else am I supposed to do? I followed the Declaration of Independence, and the long train of usurpations and everything else. Well, they wanted to make their voice heard, and they thought things were being stolen. I don't think this was the way to do it. You can't get me to be okay with it. I'll call it a riot. So we might even disagree about that. But majority of people, okay, riot. Insurrection? Well, that's political, and you're out of your head. You're out of your mind. We're able to do that. They can't. They think that somehow doing that is proof of the problem, that you didn't accept what we said from on high. Yeah, of course I don't accept what you say from on high. You're the kind of people who think that paying off a prostitute or a hooker or a stripper or whatever we're calling Stormy Daniels today constitutes a felony. And then you decided to indict Trump for that felony when everybody who knows anything will tell you it's a misdemeanor and it's over 7 years. We think you're outside of the statute of limitations. And you're like, we don't care. And you think Americans, the problem is that we won't accept that we're taken in by a con man? Dude, who's performing the con right here? Outside the statute of limitations, turning a misdemeanor into a felony through a stretch that is so amazing you could only see it on the Fantastic Four. Who's conning who? George Conway. By the way, the greatest con is not verbal Klimt. The greatest con is you, George Conway, getting news organizations to think that you have something to say and paying you for it. I'm Tony Katz. Now, so far in this indictment, we know that Trump has officially pled not guilty. We know this now for sure, that Trump has pled not guilty. We're going to see if we hear from him. We don't know yet whether we will or we won't. I hope that we do. I want that to happen. I want to hear what his commentary is going to be. I got this commentary right here. This here. Let me see if I can pull this up. This is from Kearney. Kearney, what's going on? I thought that he was being tried on the fact that he gave campaign money to pay them off, not the actual act. Oh, it's not the actual act. As I said, it was about the categorization. The money was supposed to come from here and it came from there. All right. And the money was supposed to be registered here or statement, recorded here and it got recorded there. If you want to take that and turn it into a felony, that it was somehow a payoff from the campaign and therefore was an attempt to buy someone's vote or suppress speech to influence the vote. Look, I've got Jonathan Turley on my side, and he's being very, very clear that you don't have it. They don't, excuse me, they don't have it at all because they don't have it. They're out of their heads. This is, I'm still in the camp of being amazed that they did it. I am amazed that they actually did the thing, that they actually indicted. I mean, I'm always 50-50 on these things, but I had really leaned towards the idea. I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening. I don't see the possibility of it. It doesn't make any sense. The Democrats don't want this. This is a bad, bad, bad idea. Turns out they want it. Turns out they actually want to go through this. If you ask me, that's pretty dumb. That's a pretty big mistake. Now, I'm trying to grab for you guys some of the latest that we have here. And one of these was from, here it is, Corinne Jean-Pierre. There we go. There we go. When you want to hear something nutty, you go to Corinne Jean-Pierre, who was asked about this, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna comment. So sorry, I've got no comment here. I'm not going to be any part of this conversation. Thank you." Here, it was right here.
Does the White House believe that a former president could or should be indicted?
I'm just not going to comment from here.
She's not wrong not to comment. I wouldn't comment either. And besides, she didn't have anything written down for her. So how would she know what to even say? We have not heard from Trump yet. We have not seen the indictment yet, which I am bothered by to no end. I don't know why that's not out. We know that Trump has entered the not guilty plea. And we also now know there is actually no mugshot taken. That's very disappointing for the people who want to put that on a t-shirt and make a crap ton of money. I mean, an insane amount of cash they could have made from that. So the not guilty plea has been entered. Trump was not handcuffed, and no mugshot was taken before the arraignment, which means there's going to be no mugshot. Now that I'm a little surprised by, because I would have assumed they wanted the embarrassing photo. I would have assumed that they wanted that. A little surprising. Well, we assume we'll hear from Trump sometime soon. He said he was going to speak in the hallway, but it's back to Mar-a-Lago and the primetime address tonight. Oh, man, you know I'll be covering that tomorrow on radio, everybody. You know it. As for now, I'm going to kind of wait it out. I'm going to wait it out and see whether or not Trump says anything. To the radio side, don't worry about a promo, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Just had to say goodbye to the radio people. Yeah, you guys know that I do a radio show on WIBC in Indianapolis. I do a morning show and I do a midday show, and that midday show gets shared across the country on weekends, and we're building things out and building out syndication and what you know, it's a good life. It's a good life. I'm kind of hoping we'll get to something. And so far, got to admit, super disappointed that we haven't heard more. But what we know for sure is that there is something that we have to do, regardless of anything Trump says or does. And the key, if I can, and if you take anything from this, start taking this and start sharing this. The key is absolutely positively do not let them get away with this. Now, what is this? This is the abuse. This is them deciding that they can do what they want, and you have to follow this outrageous set of rules that they set up for you and try to change any time to keep you from doing anything about them. I'm not kidding. I want to know who's going to move to disbar Alvin Bragg. When this entire proceeding blows up, I want to know. Now, is there something in the indictment that will tell us, oh my gosh, this is so serious? I don't believe so. I don't believe we're going to see that. Everything's possible. When they make a claim of morality and decency, we should ask who the big guy is and what was the 10%. We should talk about Hunter Biden morning, noon, and night, because that's a corrupt guy. And Jim Biden, the brother of the president, is a corrupt guy. And so is Joe Biden. The whole Biden family was in on getting money from Ukraine and from the Chinese. Why can't we say so? We should say so. As a matter of fact, we should be much louder about it. We should be louder about how abusive these people are, how shameful they are, their willingness to destroy. You want to tell me about Donald Trump? He was somehow destroying norms, going against presidential norms? What is all of this? take a misdemeanor, lie about it after the statute of limitations and make it a felony and get a grand jury to go along, abuse the grand jury system? Don't you tell us about norms. Don't you even begin. So many times, the argument is that you got to ignore these people. You got to ignore the crazy people. You got to ignore this one or ignore that one. No, I want to. I mean, I certainly do it on Twitter, and the mute button is my friend. There's some things you can't ignore. Some of these things have to be fought, and have to be fought aggressively. I can see myself voting for somebody else in a primary other than Donald Trump. I absolutely see that I can do that. And at the same time, I can recognize that what's happening to Trump right now is out of control crazy. I believe in the rational mind, and I believe in rational people, and I believe you can do two things at the same time. But I believe nothing can happen if you don't fight these people and call them out for what they are. And when we talk about voting, you got to do all the things that they do. And when you talk about abusing power, well, I'm sorry, there are going to be a bunch of Democrats who have to be perp walked and charged with crimes that they actually have committed. If you catch my videos, you saw Kurt Schlichter, the trial lawyer, town hall columnist, author, talking about this exact thing. We're in the same camp on this. You don't get to just go about indicting this one and indicting that one and assuming that we, whether we're Republicans or conservatives, however you want to describe us, somehow just sit there and take it. That's not how it works. We come at you full on. We come at you focused. You do this, we do this, maybe you'll stop. Maybe you will stop. We have not heard from Trump yet, so we're going to wait to see what happens. We've got tonight and the Mar-a-Lago event, and of course, I will have it all for you tomorrow for sure. My thanks to Americans for Prosperity, my sponsor, americansforprosperity.org, economic liberty, free speech. Good people. I'm a fan. Guys, I appreciate you. Do not forget to subscribe on Rumble, rumble.com/Tony Katz, rumble.com/Tony Katz. Subscribe, be a part of what I'm doing over there. I would greatly appreciate that. Check out all the videos, and I will catch you, if not later today, I'll catch you tomorrow with all the latest.